All right, good weekend to you. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. This is the Fox 26 YouTube update on the tropics, and there is a lot to talk about, but it's really about one topic, and that is Ida. Ida has really become a powerful storm within the last 12 hours and is really only expected to grow even stronger as it continues to move towards the Louisiana coast. So just an update to make sure that you're aware of where we are on the timeline. This is going to be 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon is when all of our data is coming in on this. So let's make sure that we're kind of aware of where we are on everything. I'm going to back up to the beginning of Ida. This is before Ida had a name, and it was just a low pressure system, that area of invest. This was back on Tuesday early morning when the Hurricane Center first identified this. This was, of course, had been watched and monitored even further than that, longer than that, with some of our computer modeling, but it was Tuesday again when the Hurricane Center formally identified it. We watched it as we moved through the Caribbean, and then finally when we got into Thursday and Friday, became more organized, and then on Friday about 12:30 Houston time becomes a hurricane right before making landfall along the coast of Cuba, the southern coast there. And as expected, once it gets out over the open water here in the Gulf of Mexico, everything is just right for further growth. So now sitting at a Category 2 hurricane as it continues to track towards the Louisiana coast. So when you look at this system with our infrared technology, you can kind of see that beginning of an eye a little bit, where there's a break in some of those areas that we really focus on. When you switch to the visible imagery, it's a little bit harder to see, but it's there. Remember, the visible imagery is just like if you were up in the atmosphere like a satellite looking down visually at it, and sort of with just the naked eye. And you can see that dark area that's showing up in the center there around the swirl. That's where the eye is going to be, and that's where things really begin to clear out a little bit. And when you have that opening like that, that's when it really begins to help it grow stronger in intensity. And not only is this storm growing stronger in intensity, meaning that the winds are getting stronger, but the total size is continuing to grow a little bit. This is beginning to sort of fill up the eastern portions of the Gulf of Mexico a little bit more. You can just see that general size is getting a little bit larger, and that's expected as well. And the concern there would be, of course, the many different factors of why that's bad news. But I think particularly with the storm surge, when you have a larger storm like that, that pushes that water out ahead of it earlier, and so the storm surge arrives a little earlier. Also, it's going to be a little higher once it gets there. So definitely some concerns as we're taking a look at Ida here within the last 12 hours and how it's continuing to grow and mature and become a stronger system. Of course, there are hurricane hunters that are flying into this storm to get those readings so that it's very accurate. Once they take those measurements, they can then put those into our computer modeling to really help sort of figure out exactly what's going to happen, and that at this point, they're hoping that there's no major changes because we can keep it on track where we expect it to. So all the computer models now keeping it right in that Louisiana coast, making landfall more or less central to southeast a little bit Louisiana, and then continuing to move right on through the central portions of that state up into Alabama, and then eventually going to get back into Mississippi, and it's going to be very active overall as we look. Steering currents are still in place. Of course, again, here you can see the swirl happening down with Ida. High pressure ridge in place more or less over the Carolinas. That steering current helping to kind of straighten it out a little bit. Instead of keeping that motion straight towards more or less the southeast Texas, it's going to bring that up a little bit more and curve that into Louisiana. Water temperature is always a huge factor. This is one of the main fuels that continue to allow the rain and the storms to continue to form. And that gives it the energy, the heat that's needed as those continue. And so the warmer waters, definitely, this is going to continue to support a major hurricane all the way into landfall. So remember, Category 3 is considered major. So I think for sure this is going to be a major. Most likely it's going to be a Category 4 hurricane when it does make its landfall. And we'll look at the official forecast track from the Hurricane Center again. Just a reminder, 4 p.m. Saturday is when we're looking at all of this information. Maximum sustained winds currently at 105 65 miles an hour. And we're beginning to see a little bit more forward speed increase, and that's going to make a difference on the landfall for sure. The faster the better, in my opinion, so that we can kind of give it less time to form and kind of keep it moving a little bit quicker. But I think this is going to even speed up a little bit more. We're looking at 16 miles an hour right now to the northwest. So when we're looking at things over the next 12 hours or so, we get to Sunday afternoon, about 1 o'clock, we're beginning to see the eye make its landfall. So remember, you have several hours of those worst conditions with the winds and the rain and the storm surge ahead of that, and then the eye itself makes landfall at around 1. So this has sped up. Where we were thinking it would be a Sunday evening landfall, it's definitely looking more like a Sunday afternoon instead. And look at this maintaining hurricane strength all the way past midnight on Sunday and into Monday morning. So moving through most of Louisiana as a hurricane still, maintaining its hurricane strength. So it's going to downgrade from a Category 4 to a Category 1, but still, that is a powerful storm and lasting for a very long time. And then as we talked about, it's going to curve up. We're going to look at a tropical storm status and then a tropical depression, and then this is still going to bring rain to a lot of folks over on the East Coast, and eventually perhaps even the nation's capital could begin to see some rain that's somewhat related to what Ida is doing. So there's a lot of folks who are going to feel some impacts. Of course, Louisiana are the folks that we're thinking about the most right now, and we're hopeful that they can continue to make those safety preparations and move out of danger into a safest place that they can with little time that is left at this point in time. So that pretty much brings you up to speed on Ida. The next two names on this list are Julian and Kate, and I think these are going to get checked off pretty quick, as a matter of fact. We have a tropical depression already in the Atlantic. This is Tropical Depression 10. Of course, we're not talking about it very much right now, mainly because it is expected to stay in the Atlantic. I've got a few of the models on here for us, but it should become a tropical storm, but it might not be the next one to form, because there is another area of development a little further in the Atlantic that has an 80% chance of developing into a tropical system. So these two are sort of racing to those next two names on the list. And just to say, continue to show it's active, there's another spot way out in the Atlantic off the African coast that has a 60% development chance over the next 5 days. So again, these two areas in the Atlantic could check off a couple more names, but of course we are mainly focused right now on Ida and what it's going to do to the Louisiana coast. So it's one of those situations where we're definitely thinking about the folks in Louisiana. Hope they're continuing to make those preparations. That's what the focus is for those folks as well. I will continue to keep you updated on the weekend with YouTube. Of course, I've got my social media accounts if you want to find me on those as well, at John Dawson, Fox 26. And I have to say this is not just me plugging an app, because I have gone to the Fox 26 weather app many times over the last week and looked at the tropical information. It comes to that app very quickly, and you get that information very quickly. And I was even on the app on Friday night at the football game, at the high school football game. I was getting out the app to take a look at those possible storms that were across the area. So of course the local forecast is going to be there, but again, in the tropical sense, you're going to be able to do that. So go to the Fox 26 weather, go to your favorite app store and look for the Fox 26 weather app and get that down on your phone. Of course, we've got a 9 p.m. newscast this evening, Saturday night, and then Sunday we'll have a 5 and a 9, but I will be back here around 4 o'clock or as close to after 4 as the information is available to bring you the latest on what it looks like Ida might be doing.